You're trained to spot unhealthy patterns. But what about the ones in your own workday? When your schedule, boundaries, and values are all out of sync, no amount of lavender candles or 5-minute meditations will fix the burnout. It's about boundaries, power, and building a life that doesn't chew you up. So, work-life balance. Steph, what is that for you?
I love that question. I feel like it's another one of those things that we hear all the time without either specific steps or helpful ways to integrate it or what it might look like for each individual. So for me personally, it incorporates a multitude of things. So the first step was really checking in with what was important to me and what I needed, and then going from there. So being able to set priorities with what I have going on or what I need, or establish boundaries, whether it's my scheduling or going out, anything social, stuff like that. It was really helpful for me to understand what I needed in order to manage it. So looking at the time management of what my weeks were looking like and how it was going really offered me the insight to how to balance it. I think when first coming into it, you're like, okay, balance. I want to feel balanced, but I'm not really sure how to get there. It really did take that self-discovery of, well, what do I want my days to look like? How do I want to fill my time? And being able to understand what it looked like to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that for mine is it's just this learning process, because things I know about myself is I do not like being bored. And so I'm
Yeah.
constantly kind of pursuing different avenues and different aspects, whether it's a training or things to be doing or what knowledge I have or things with friends or, just these things that I like to put in my life. And so there on one end of the spectrum is this boredom, which I'm trying to not have. But then when I put too many things in, it ends up this grind, and I'm so much into it that I can't sustain everything. And
Right.
so of backing up and of, okay, well, what of these things are the priorities? What
Yeah.
brings the most bang for my buck, the most need? And like, why do I do certain things? Why do I even work? It is because I have a certain skill set and I know how to do these things and I've been trained to do them, and I see the change with my clients. So absolutely, that is important to me. But ultimately, we do our work like this because of the offset of what we can be with our family or our friends, who we are. And so when we lose sight of, well, either side really, that's where it kind of gets like janky. So that's, to me, like how I kind of go into it and what it is for me. It's this, like I'm somewhat standing on those balance boards things, and sometimes it just feels very stable, and you're like, yeah, this is so easy. And then like sometimes it is constant that you're getting bombarded with things, and you have to decide if this is really worth it and if this aligns with what's going to keep me staying balanced and my priorities.
Absolutely. And I feel like between some of the societal norms or pressures around activity, like your worth comes from being active or working, I think that really conditions us to all attach some of our self worth to that. So that's difficult and a really important space to re navigate that. You are more than just your roles and responsibilities. So, in order to find that balance, it has to include things that are outside of being a parent or being an employee or being a boss or even housework stuff. Like that will be part of the balancing act. But if it's only roles and responsibilities, then it's lopsided as far as what it's offering us and how we're being able to take care of ourselves or show up in our lives. So understanding that there is importance to the other stuff as well, trying to kind of keep it at the same importance level for yourself.
Yeah. As you're even saying that, is the way that we even describe ourselves gives us indicator of where things are at with our self, and knowing ourself within that, of even knowing how to balance those things.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, pay attention to how we present ourselves into the world.
Agreed. And I think one of the things that I struggled with was the expectation that the days should all incorporate the same things. So getting in some physical activity, getting in some work, getting in some admin, getting in some sunshine, getting in some blah, 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 blah. But like you were saying, life comes at us fast. So in an ideal world where we have all this ample time, awesome, but that's not always the case. So being able to, like you said, take that step back and really reflect on what you need and what's going on so you can adapt and adjust to what that is. The balance, there's balance within the days, but then there's balance across the days. So if I'm really heavy workloaded this week, I might try to prioritize or manage my time for work next week where I have something else to offset it or something more to input back into myself. So that was definitely part of the learning experience.
Yeah, learning experience. So what is it not for you? What is work-life balance not?
From that experience, it's not misalignment. I think that is a big umbrella word that I can throw in, and there's different avenues. So it's not overexerting myself, it's not overcommitting or not prioritizing my time or not even looking at my time to manage it. So it really is being intentional and active in my life and what's important. And unfortunately, I feel like in the world of technology, as wonderful as it is, we've become so accessible. So having a personal boundary with emails or my phone or communications has been really helpful in that space of accessibility. People expect you to be, and that's not what work-life balance is.
For me, what it isn't is that I had to learn that it's not static. And it's not a matter that it's just around showing up for all of these things that were required for work. You know, here's your schedule, here's all the things you're expected to be doing. And then to be in my home life there for all the things, you know, and just keep piling it all in the calendar, but like it's static. Like those all have to be there. I think that like recognizing that it shifts and recognizing that the ebb and flow comes and goes. Sometimes that it will be all in and you just kind of have to like really nurture yourself in the downtimes, but knowing that you're going to be like, okay, this is going to be a stretch of lots of work and also lots of things in my personal life. And then there's other times that you're like, okay, you know what? Right now I need to really focus in on this piece, this part. And recognize that your other things can adjust. So I think that that to me is what it is and isn't.
Okay. How do you feel it's been helpful for you to integrate it? So we talk about it and have the thoughts and ideas, but how do you feel it's helpful to put it into practice for yourself?
It creates like a doable like process for myself. It creates something that I want to be involved in, and that when it doesn't create resentment, it's not just taking up all my energy in the wrong areas, and so that I bring my best to everything. And we're not supposed to be everything for all people, for sure. It's giving yourself the best chance forward to be fully present with your clients and be fully present in your personal life. I think that's the piece for me that is like wildly important.
I like it. I definitely have to agree. And then adding the fact that I'm very much a insight in mind type of person. So kind of creating a planner or a schedule that you can check in. And for me, I pull in my top priorities. I pull in self-care for the week and then whatever else is going on. So by the natural format of including roles, responsibilities, self-care, and then miscellaneous, it kind of allows that balance within the week, even if work is heavier or even if downtime is heavier, because it's addressing roles, responsibilities, health, wellness, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What kind of challenges do you run into when you're trying to get the balance in your life?
Happenings and or change in brain space or energy level for me personally. So there might be a day where I'm like, oh, I don't have clients, I'm able to do X, Y, and Z admin or around the house. And there's been plenty of times where I have one brain cell or I'm overly exhausted and just not with it with the tasks that I had planned. And there was an immense sense of guilt when those things happened. And that was also part of the learning curve for myself of reality. Like life isn't what you expect it to be every single day. Within managing your time and finding that balance, the balance includes allowing yourself to adjust when things need to be adjusted. I used to, and some things are time sensitive, so you have to get it done. But I used to try to force my way through that energy or brain space, and it took forever, or I couldn't get it right, or it was not enjoyable. And then when I took that step back, gave myself what I needed, and came back with fresh eyes, I usually just knock it out. So even seeing the difficulty in it and then being like, okay, let's try something new to see if it helps, has been such a help with it, because I wouldn't have known until I gave it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the picture that comes to my mind is that we can, like rush into everything and knowing that we just have to get it done and trying to be pushed through. It's like whether it's like you kind of feel like you're beat up or dragged or like whatever the term is, it doesn't sound very fun or good. Instead of just taking a minute and really assessing kind of where the wind is blowing, so you're
Right.
not like fighting against it, as you find the tailwind and what kind of makes it an easier go.
Yes. That reminds me, I haven't said this in a long time, but I used to say this to clients all the time. If you're out sailing and the wind dies down, you're not going to burn your ship and sink it. You're going to adjust the sails, maybe take a second, and then catch the wind when it comes. So it might not be the same way for everyone, but it really is important to allow yourself to take a breath and adjust when you need.
Absolutely.
Is there any kind of mental check in that has worked for you when you're either struggling or looking to see if you're finding that balance?
I guess several things that come to mind is checking in with myself on a daily and recognizing where my energy is at. And so that I know how to allot time and that energy to what has to get done, what could get done, and then what doesn't have to get done, so you can kind of even adjust your day.
Yeah.
But I think that even looking at things like having things well laid out, not trying to overschedule yourself and being realistic. When we're not realistic with ourselves, all bets are off. I mean, it's not going to go well no matter what you do. So it doesn't matter how much things you put in your planner. If it's not balanced, it's not going to work. So I think that having ways to check in with yourself and giving yourself that space and then knowing how to adjust within those pieces. So what about you?
Well, and we've kind of talked about it. So, doing the practical check in of needs and what's going on, but then even asking yourself, did I show up for myself? Am I doing my best with what I can today? And a lot of times we think doing my best means knocking everything out, right? Getting all of the tasks, being bright eyed and bushy tailed, making homemade sourdough, cleaning the floors with a toothbrush. But that's not our best, that's our busiest.
Right.
And it's nice when things feel done and we're calm. But if we're busy and we're not balanced, then as much as we feel we're doing our best, we could do better for what we need. For example, maybe not having the brain space on a day I don't have clients. That guilt perpetuates and it makes it more exhausting and more problematic. I'm not getting it done and then I'm sitting in a space of guilt.
Yeah, I think that did I do my best is such a powerful question, and really learning what that means for yourself. And when you do your best, it's not that every single box is checked off your to-do list. It is
Right.
not necessarily that you got 100% and all the extra credit. It is not that you saw every single client and actually did a couple consult calls and also added some extra people onto your caseload for the day. That is not
Mhm.
doing your best. That's just like piling on more. And so your best is literally session by session or the interactions by interaction with your people in your life. And checking in with that is like my true self. And I was able to really show up for them and for myself. And so I represented myself well. My best is in my own integrity. And when
Yeah.
I can do that, sit in my own integrity, that alignment is true.
Yeah.
It's work to know yourself to that degree, but it's along the way process and learning.
And as we learn, we change. So the balance is going to continuously be ever changing, whether it's day to day, chapter by chapter, week by week. So really giving ourselves the flexibility to see what we need and allow ourselves to give alternatives or trial and error or
Hmm.
maybe something we didn't expect to do that day.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Just recognizing that balance is ever changing.
Mhm. Absolutely. So here's your check in. Are you living the advice and treating yourself with the same compassion you offer your clients? If not, it's time to change that. Not next month, not when things slow down, now. Because your well being isn't optional, it's essential.
So hit that follow button and share this episode with a fellow therapist that needs the reminder you deserve a life outside of your practice. Let's make it happen. See you next time.